Hey, what's up, everyone? Bass here. So, as we saw this past weekend, David Bakhtiari was placed on the PUP list, and he wasn't initially placed on the first PUP list that came out Friday, which included the likes of Christian Watson, Elton Jenkins, Robert Tonyan, Dean Lowry, and Mason Crosby, which at the time was a great sign. David Bakhtiari was not on that PUP list, but as I stated in that video, he could still be added to the PUP list up until Tuesday, and that's exactly what happened a day later this past Saturday. And again, to clarify, this PUP list is different from the regular season one. This one's just for training camp, so with this list, they can come off this list at any time during training camp or preseason. There's no definite amount of time they're going to be out. This just allows the Packers to place them on the regular season PUP list if need be come week one, which could still technically happen with David Bakhtiari, but as of right now, there's no real timetable, even though he got added to this list. Now, will he return before regular season week one? That we'll have to find out in the next coming weeks. But today in this video, I wanted to go over all the facts about what happened with David Bakhtiari's knee 18 months ago and what has basically led up to this point of David Bakhtiari still not being ready to go 18 months later, which is just crazy to say because a usual timetable for an ACL tear is 9 months. And obviously, every player is different. And that's exactly what it's been with David Bakhtiari, just different. All of last season, we were wondering when David Bakhtiari would be back as the weeks went by. Then finally in week 18, we saw him on the field after being activated in November. He played 3 drives in that game against Detroit. And then after that, we have not seen him since. After that game, Matt LaFleur stated it was a pitch count, and that's why he only played the 3 drives. But that clearly wasn't the case because, as I said, since then, we have not seen him on the field other than in the rehab group. He missed the entirety of playoffs, and a lot of us thought that that Week 18 game against Detroit was to get him ready for playoffs, but he missed the entirety of playoffs in a game against the 49ers, which he would have been a huge benefit if healthy. Then fast forward to last January, David Bakhtiari did an interview with Cheesehead TV, and he finally spoke out about the implications of his ACL injury. Firstly, he said it was not an isolated tear. It got a bit of his meniscus and cartilage as well, and basically said there was a lot more going on than just an ACL tear. He also stated that last year he had a lot of fluid in his knee, around 30 to 35 cc's of fluid to be exact, around when he was activated in November of last year. And then while practicing, it got worse, a lot more fluid added up in his knee. They ended up draining around 96 cc's of fluid out of his knee. And that process all of last year, draining his knee, happened about 15 times. And to put that in perspective of how much that is, the 96 cc's of fluid they drained out of his knee, Brian Bulaga, who also tore his ACL, had about 20 to 30 cc's of fluid in his knee. So clearly something was not right. So then, of course, they did a new scan on David Bakhtiari's knee and found he had ripped even more cartilage in a new spot in his knee. Then David Bakhtiari had a knee scope on November 18th where they cleaned some things up and also removed some scar tissue. Then that led up to him playing the 3 drives in Detroit. There was rumblings going around that they wanted to see him in a game before the playoffs. He felt obligated to at least go give it a shot. He did that. Then after the Detroit game, his knee flared up again, and they had to drain another 88 cc's of fluid from his knee. But David Bakhtiari stated structurally his ACL and meniscus is fine. It's simply the fluid issue to this point, and the knee just simply needing rest. So this was back in January, like I said, so I think at this point it's still a fluid issue with his knee. He said his knee was structurally okay in terms of ACL and meniscus, but fluid was kind of always the issue late last year going into this year. So I think personally that is still the issue. I think there's still a excess amount of fluid in his knee, and that's why he's on the PUP list right now. I think every time he tries to work it more and get back out there and go into the rehab group, do more, he gets more fluid in his knee, which is definitely concerning. Because as we saw this last offseason during OTAs and minicamp, he was working with the rehab group, and that undoubtedly flared his knee back up, and he likely has more fluid in it than they would like right now. But in my opinion, that's the sole issue right now, is his knee just being so inflamed and not a structural issue with his ACL. Now, how much fluid that is it more closer to the 90 cc's back in November? I hope not. I would hope it's more close to that 30 cc mark, because as he said, you want to be right around 20 to 30 cc's of fluid as a bigger offensive lineman with a knee injury, and that's kind of the point you want to be at where you can get back out on the field. So I'm hoping it's closer to that, but clearly it is not at that point because he wouldn't be on the PUP list. So I'm just hoping it's closer to that mark than it is at the 90 mark that we saw last season. But I'm sure we'll get an update from Matt LaFleur here soon. soon. He was the one saying he was very hopeful that David Bakhtiari will be back to start training camp, and obviously that wasn't the case. So I'm assuming the moment there's a press conference with Matt LaFleur, the first question is going to be about David Bakhtiari, and we'll get some update hopefully there. But I still have hope that David Bakhtiari will play this year at some point. I personally do not think his career is over. If it's simply just a fluid issue with his knee and it's structurally okay, it's just a matter of time before he gets back out there. But how much time? That's the thing we do not know. Obviously, we'll learn a lot more in these next few weeks through training camp and preseason. If he doesn't get out there at all in training camp and stays on the PUP, gets added to the PUP for the regular season, he'll be out a minimum of 4 weeks, which obviously we don't want to see. But getting David Bakhtiari back at any point will obviously be a boost to this offense, of course, if he is healthy. We have Elgton Jenkins also with an ACL injury, which I think he will start on the actual PUP and miss the first 4 weeks. He can obviously play left tackle if David Bakhtiari can't come back sooner than Elgton Jenkins, which would be also concerning. But Elgton Jenkins can play anywhere on the offensive line. So if David Bakhtiari is ready to go, that would be the best case scenario where we could put Elgton Jenkins at right tackle or guard or pretty much anywhere on the offensive line. But at the end of the day, we will see what happens in the next coming weeks. All we can do right now is speculate. But I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this whole situation. I know it's always concerning to us fans. I mean, this guy's been out for 18 months, and it seems like we get a little bit of okay news, and then it's right back down. It's 1 step forward, 2 steps back with David Bakhtiari, and I'm just hoping this can all be over soon. But that about does it for this one. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.